William Edwards Deming was an American engineer, statistician, professor, author, lecturer, and management consultant. For those old enough to recall, in the late 70s and early 80s, Japan was kicking the butt of the American auto industry. They were producing better quality cars at lower prices. That was all due to the teachings of Deming. Because his ideas were rejected here in the United States, Deming went to Japan following World War II. Many in Japan credit Deming as the inspiration for what has become known as the Japanese post-war economic miracle, when Japan rose from the ashes of war to become the second most powerful economy in the world. The ideas Deming taught were better design, higher product quality, improvement of testing, and greater sales. What was so revolutionary about Deming's work that caused American companies to completely reject it? The principal organizational structure in America is a hierarchy. This is a vestige of the work of Frederick Taylor in the late 1800s. He introduced a method called scientific management. Taylor was what we would now call an efficiency expert. He took a stopwatch and timed each and every job within a company. Then he determined how that job could be done more quickly. He then had the company management retrain all the workers so that they would stringently adhere to the new methods. The underlying philosophy of Taylor's work was that the common worker was little better than a trained ape with no ability to contribute worthwhile ideas. He must be told and shown exactly what to do, and if he didn't comply, just get rid of him and get another. This is still the predominant structure of American business today, and this structure is at the very heart of why Deming went to Japan. Deming's main focus was on the customer. Everything done in a company must be geared to providing the customer the best product at the best price. He advocated working backward from the customer and reevaluating every process within the company to identify areas where there were potential service or quality issues or log jams that might delay getting the product to the customer. He also advocated thinking in terms of customer service within the company. There are areas in the company where there is a service-customer relation. For instance, sales is the customer of the entire company. Everything the company does has to be geared to support the salesman so he can sell the product. Deming found that 95% of all problems within a company are found in top and middle management. Most of these people have absolutely no idea what goes on down on the shop floor. They can't run any of the machines. They've never gone out and had any contact with the customers. They sit in their offices and think up new products and ways of doing things and then dictate them down to the people who actually do the work. They neither ask for nor accept input or suggestions. If they do ask for input or suggestions about one of their ideas, what they really seek is agreement with a decision that's already been made. If anyone questions the new method, they're presented with arguments and rationalizations to justify what they've already decided to do. Or they'll say, what we've been doing has always worked before. Why should we make any changes? What it boils down to is the attitude. This is our organization. You'll do things the way we want them done, or you can find somewhere else to go. Here's a typical structure for a manufacturing company. Let's work backward from the customer and see what usually happens. First of all, sales start falling off and nobody knows why. The salesman is the one who has the closest relationship to the customer, so he goes out and begins asking questions. Could it be he's making a bad sales pitch? Turns out the quality of the product has been declining and the customer has found another supplier. What's causing the decline in quality? Is it something in the manufacturing process, or has quality control started falling down on the job? Chances are that the salesman has a pretty good relationship with the guys in quality control and manufacturing, as well as other departments. Maybe they're next-door neighbors, or they fish together, or they just gather around the water cooler. They can normally identify the problem. Let's say the problem is in quality control. They don't have the authority to make the changes to solve the problem. It must be submitted up the chain of command. Then what happens? The sales manager or the VP of sales might say, well, that's not my area of responsibility. I can't do anything about it. Or he might say, before I take this to management, you've got to prove that you're right. Or he may just steal the idea and submit it as his own. If it does go over to the VP of Quality Control, he might say, hey, this ain't your department. Or he might not want to surface the problem for a fear it will reflect poorly on his own management. Or he might just steal it too. Consequently, nothing gets done, sales continue to fall, and the company goes broke. This is also the type of structure where you hear such phrases as, we've never done it that way, or that's not how we do things here, or we can't take the risk to change things unless we know it will work, or who are you to be suggesting changes? You haven't been here that long. But the new guy often has a much better perspective on what's happening outside. He's not tied down to old methods. Deming instituted a new management structure in which everyone involved was on a team, and everyone's input was both solicited and welcomed. Because they were losing out to Japanese competition, Ford Motor Company instituted this structure, calling the teams quality circles. There was a quality circle for the F-150 pickup. There was a quality circle for the Mustang. There was a quality circle for every model Ford manufactured. Everyone from every department in the company was a member of the quality circle for that model. They could talk directly to one another and exchange ideas. The leader of the circle was not the boss. He or she was chosen based on his or her training, education, experience, and proven sound judgment. That person was accepted by consensus of everyone in the circle. The leader had the authority to make the decision for changes based on their recommendations. This organizational style was also adopted by 3M Corporation, and it led to the creation of the Post-it note. In 1968, a 3M scientist named Spencer Silver came up with a low-tack, pressure-sensitive adhesive. For 5 years, he tried to get the company to do something with it, to no avail. Another employee, Art Fry, came up with the idea of using the adhesive to anchor his bookmark in his hymn book. In its efforts to adopt Deming's management method, the company instituted a policy known as permitted bootlegging. Fry took advantage of that policy to develop the idea, and it took off. Silver and Fry made a lot of money on that idea, but it took almost 7 years to get it off the ground. This is an entirely antiquated management structure and style of leadership. It causes more companies to go out of business than any other factor. Of course, it's easy to see why Deming was rejected by American companies. His method eliminates middle management. Even the military recognized the weaknesses of the hierarchical structure and attempted to implement the Deming management method in the 90s. It was called total quality leadership. That effort failed because the military must be a hierarchy. Someone must give the orders, and those orders must be obeyed. This is why the government is so completely unresponsive to the citizens. Hierarchical organizations bring out two of the worst traits of human nature. There are always those whose ego is so large that being in charge is their highest priority. Government workers lose sight of the fact that their customers are the taxpayers who pay their salaries. And, all too often, the style of management resembles that of Napoleon. But in terms of people, the word leadership should be substituted for management. The best leaders know that they don't know everything. They don't have to know everything. As Ronald Reagan used to say, surround yourself with good people who know their jobs, give them broad policy guidance, and then give them the authority to do those jobs without looking over their shoulders. People should want to do their best to contribute to the organization, not simply to keep from losing their job. Threat of firing or punishment is absolutely the last resort of a good leader. Under Deming, people want to contribute. It makes for a more successful organization because everyone's happier. They know their contribution is both sought and appreciated, and the organization can get things done in a timely manner. It is flexible enough to implement changes when the situation warrants such changes to better serve the customer.